Hi, this is Tutor Nick P, and this is lesson 285. Today the title is The Difference Between Supernatural and Paranormal. Yeah, I've had students in the past a number of times ask me this. What's the difference between these two? And this one's really difficult. It's really difficult even for native speakers because I think the average native speaker, it's hard for them to clearly distinguish because there is a little crossover between the two. So sometimes they are used interchangeably. But I'm going to try to distinguish as much as possible some clear differences between the two and when you're more likely to hear one than the other. Okay, so let's take a look at the note here. We are more likely to use the term supernatural with things that are focused on magic, religion, superstition, all usually based on beliefs. So you have to believe that they really exist. Things that are supernatural are usually attributed to a power that goes beyond this planet, beyond nature, especially to God or a type of God, spirits, demons, angels, supernatural strength, etc. So again, you have to believe that they all do exist. The supernatural strength, well, that could also be related back to like comic books too. Superheroes having superpower, that's kind of in the supernatural range. Supernatural also can be related to old mythologies too, like Roman mythology, Greek mythology, Norse mythology, from the Northern Europe there, like, if Thor and Odin. If you believed in, the power of Thor's hammer, this would all go under supernatural, definitely. If you think there's any truth to that, even though nowadays we call them myths, so we sometimes think that maybe they were just stories made up at that time, but if anyone thinks that there might have been some truth to that, that would definitely go under supernatural. All right, let's continue here. Things that are supernatural are nearly impossible to try to study in a laboratory, prove their existence through science. Yeah, you can't study God. You can't put God in a laboratory and prove his existence. And the same thing with demons. You really can't prove their existence. Now, once in a while, we might get somebody that we believe is possessed by an evil demon, and many priests might really believe that they are possessed by an evil spirit, and this evil spirit might have been, connected to the idea of, going back to God, the fallen angels, like supposedly there was a war in heaven between God and Lucifer, and I think 2/3 of the angels stayed with God and 1/3 went with Lucifer, and there's fallen angels, and maybe some of those demons are some of the ones that might possess people. But here, of course, if you brought a person in that you thought was possessed by an evil spirit and you brought them into a scientist, scientists would probably say they're not. They would probably say that they have a psychological problem. So it's a matter of whether you really believe that an evil spirit was in that person. So if you believe that, then that's definitely falls under the supernatural. All right, let's continue here. Same thing with angels. You really can't put angels in a laboratory. Although there have been some images caught on tape of what appears to be like angels, because now we have all these videos that go 24 hours a day, and there is some definitely strange phenomenon that sometimes appeared like angels. Who knows? Okay, let's continue. So now the paranormal claims to be studies of purported phenomenon that so far are unexplained by science. So the paranormal actually does try to be a science. I remember in the old movie Ghostbusters, which was really a comedy, it's supposed to be a joke, but the point was, I remember there that supposedly they were teaching at a university, and in the university it was supposed to be a real science. They were supposedly studying the existence of ghosts and things like that. So the paranormal does try to actually study it, especially ghosts, something like ghosts. We're going to get into that. That would be under the paranormal. There's many claims of ghosts, not only throughout the world, but throughout history. and we do see on tapes, and even now they have like these ghost hunters, and they have a lot of high-tech equipment, and they could detect things like temperature change, like usually where there might be a presence of a ghost or a spirit that might get a lot colder. You've seen images of ghosts. Sometimes it might be the poltergeist, where you might see things move, like a ghost, where things just move on their own, but you don't see any image. So the paranormal tries to study that. There does seem to be some evidence out there. So the paranormal claims to be a science that's trying to study these things. Okay. But at least you can try to set up some kind of experiments, to see the existence or the presence of this paranormal activity. That's the way they would call it. All right, ported. I'll explain what. Yeah, so para in Latin means beyond, beyond. So it really means like beyond nature. It literally means beyond the natural or beyond nature, but not explained yet. So the paranormal would usually include ghosts. Yeah, just like I said. There's a lot of people who have claimed to have some sort of experience with ghosts, and like I said, it's everywhere. There's nowhere in the world where somebody didn't say that they had ghosts, and throughout history we can have many stories of it too. And nowadays, like I say, there are some images that are actually caught on video. Sometimes it's even caught in a photo. So there's something weird going on there, and there is a presence which can be detected, but it's definitely unexplainable. So that would be in paranormal. Witches, again, if those that actually study real witchcraft, and if they could make something happen, maybe. All right, again, this is where sometimes it feels like there's a little bit of a crossover, because technically when people think of ghosts, they often think of ghosts. Ghosts technically are in the category of spirits, but they're not really. Most of what we think of ghosts would probably be humans that were alive on Earth and they died, and the presence of their spirit on Earth still lingers. But if you were talking about supernatural, those might have been spirits that were never alive or never human beings, okay, or demons or angels. Like angels maybe never had a human form. So they would be in the supernatural, but ghosts would be people. They were actually alive, they died, and if you think the presence of their spirit that lingered afterwards was still detected on Earth, that would go under the paranormal. Unexplained mysteries. Now, unexplained mysteries definitely would fall in paranormal and not in supernatural. Things like telekinesis. A lot of these things are very, very rare, but there is some evidence of their existence. There is some people that do have the power, they can use the power of their mind to actually move objects. Again, it's usually not like in the movies where they can have things flying all around the room, but maybe they can make some objects fall down or roll a little bit. Some of this has been actually proven. Again, very, very rare to find, but they did find some existence of this. And even more rare would be pyrokinesis, where somebody could actually use the power of their mind to start a fire. Okay. So if you remember the old Stephen King book, Firestarter, that was based on that thinking. Extrasensory perception, ESP. All right. They have definitely studied ESP. And even people who you think have it are usually not right 100% of the time. But we still might think of somebody having some ESP ability if they seem to be able to be right far more than average, far more than what would be considered in the just luck range. So there are some people that, seem to be able to predict maybe some things, future, or, say they could see things or contact with ghosts or things like that, mediums. We might actually study these people. Again, there seems to be some evidence, but it's still not explainable by science. So this would go in the paranormal, under the paranormal. Spontaneous combustion. Again, extremely rare. I think there's only an average of maybe one a year. But that would be if somebody just suddenly just blew up. Well, this is one that maybe one day. There are some theories about why this happens, but as of yet, they no 100% proof that it could be explained. But there have been many documented cases of people that just actually blew up. with no explanation. Their body just blew up out of nowhere. That's spontaneous combustion. This would definitely go under the paranormal. Yes. Okay, so let's continue. Paranormal usually covers what can be studied, but like I said, so there does seem to be some evidence of it, and there is some evidence of its existence, but as of yet cannot be explained by science. Perhaps some things in the area of paranormal one day may be explained by science. It's possible. There are things in the past that we might have thought of as being, unexplainable, that one day we did learn to explain it. So maybe some things in paranormal could fall in this area. But again, if you're talking about supernatural, if you believe a lot of the stories from the Bible with Moses separating the water, that would definitely be supernatural. I remember recently when what Pope Benedict, was it the 16th, or when he retired, on that same day or something, there was a lightning strike that hit the top of the Vatican. Now, if some people might think that there might have been some supernatural power that had something to do with it, that might have been a warning sign. But some other scientists might not believe that at all, and they might just say that it was coincidence or chance. Even though the odds of something like a lightning strike hitting the exact tip of the dome of the Vatican, the odds are almost impossible. I think your odds of winning the lottery every day for thousands of years would probably be better than that happening at that exact moment. So that would definitely fall under the supernatural, if you believe that maybe that came from God or some supernatural power. Or if you think that there is such a thing as divine intervention, that maybe God comes down and makes things happen, that would go under the supernatural. Okay. Anyway, I hope you got a better feel of it. I hope it's clearer that you might see some differences of when you're more likely to use supernatural than paranormal. Okay. Well, thank you for your time. I hope it was informative. Bye-bye.